that garbage can orbit of Donald Trump. No doubt that he's nervous.
What'd you do?
On Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, Donald Trump entered a Manhattan courtroom and pled not guilty to 34 crimes.
Fucking movie star. You're a fucking movie star.
Set tick, tick, tick.
Hear Donald Trump, I know we get a little numb to this, but we can't compare the Biden administration to the Gestapo. What is your reaction to that?
Every accusation is a confession, essentially, of purpose. And we've never had presidential candidates, much less presidents, talk like that before about the other party in America. There's been a very strong degree of civility at that level. And so it telegraphs some very dark intentions on his part.
It's what dictators do, which is so important for people to remember. I want to just go back to the thing I also ended on there, which is that the final summary of this article, which was very lengthy. I mean, it was like an 83-minute interview where he said a lot of things. He said about his talk of dictatorship, a lot of people like it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's right about that in the sense that dictators, whether Pinochet in Chile or Mussolini or, you know, the most horrible specimens from the 20th century, have always had their supporters. It doesn't last long because most people want to lead a life of democracy and security and freedom and self-government. But those kinds of opportunists and demagogues have always been able to fool some significant part of the population for a certain period of time. And the founders of America knew that. Alexander Hamilton, in the very first Federalist paper, warned of demagogues who would whip up a mob frenzy based on negative emotions instead of using government as an instrument for the common good to make things better for people. So at this point, Americans are forewarned. If you look at the things he's talking about, doing mass roundups and incarceration and deportations from the country, crack down on women in red states on abortion, banning women from going from red states to blue states to get reproductive health care, freeing the so-called January 6 hostages, who are a majority of whom people who've pled guilty to violently assaulting our police officers. That is an authoritarian program. I mean, that's right out of the authoritarian playbook of Mussolini and beyond.
No question about it. And some who are still still around the country, dictators right now. He also said, and what strikes me time and time again is that we've seen this movie before. You have led investigations into this movie we've seen. And when he said, I think we're going to win, and if we don't win, you know, it depends. It always depends on the fairness of an election. He said that in response to a question about the potential for political violence.
Yeah. Which is a hallmark of fascist and authoritarian political parties. But look, now none of the Republicans will commit to stand by the results of the 2024 election. They won't even stand by the results of the 2020 election when 60 different federal and state court decisions rejected every claim of election fraud and corruption that Donald Trump brought forward. And still they're saying it was a stolen election. There is zero evidence of that. You cannot make a remotely plausible case for it. So they're living in an alternate reality, and that's how authoritarianism works.
And they're still, to your point, not willing to commit to abiding by the outcome in 2024. There was a little bit of like a VP stakes race out there with a lot of people this morning on Sunday morning shows answering versions of this question. I want to play you something that Tim Scott said in an exchange with Kristen Welker and get your thoughts on it.
Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
Well, at the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
That is my statement. I mean, okay. It's not a hard question, I think we should acknowledge. Clearly, that is what Trump wants him to say. He wants to be on his VP list. But how concerned should we be about that becoming, as you alluded to earlier, the common response?
I mean, it's a dramatic departure from American history when all of the major presidential candidates have agreed to abide by the outcome, even when there are real questions, like in 2000 in Bush versus Gore. Vice President Gore actually had a lead in the popular vote. There were real questions about what was taking place in Florida, and yet he stood down.
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
Going to keep a very serious, straight face. It could be a reality show called Dumb, Dumber and Dumber, or it could be people attempting to be the valet person for former guy. Three of the contenders, having had a nice retweet at Mar-a-Lago, rushed to a cable news station this Sunday, and the garbage is incredible. Shall we start with nice but dim Uncle Tim deluded? That engagement, by the way, don't see many pictures. It's not a fix. It's real. It's not made up so he can be like present himself as if Tim Scott would be full of SOS.
Was that? We had a lot of conversations around the room about the importance of eliminating Bidenomics, about the importance of getting inflation back down to 2%. We were just better off under President Trump. Inflation, Kristen, was at 2%. And we had the lowest unemployment rates for African Americans, for Hispanics, for Asians, a 70-year low for women. We had the highest funding for historically black colleges.
A couple of points on the economy. Of course, the inflation rate has come down significantly from its high in 2022. In terms of black unemployment, it was actually at its lowest rate last year, 4.7% in April of 2023 as compared to 5.3% under 2019 with Donald Trump. But then, to the point, you voted to certify the election results of 2020. It's the exact opposite of what you said and did after 2020. Why would you want to be on a ticket with someone where there's such a fundamental difference?
There is clear facts here. President Trump himself said he expects this election to be fair, he expects it to be honest, and he expects to win. That's what the presidential candidate should expect, and I expect the exact same thing, and frankly, the American people agree with him. This is an issue that is not an issue, so I'm not going to make it an issue.
Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024, bottom line?
Well, at the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
But is it just yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times.
Senator, just a yes or no answer.
So the American people will make the decision.
But I don't hear you committing
for President Trump. That's clear.
I don't hear you committing to the election results.
Here's the challenge.
Will you commit to accepting the election results?
This is why so many Americans believe that NBC is an extension of the Democrat Party. At the end of the day, I've said what I've said, and I know that the American people, their voices will be heard, and I believe that President Trump will be our next president.
Inside Donald Trump's prison cell, the surroundings are like any other small, enclosed space. The walls are gray concrete, and a narrow cot with a thin mattress is the only piece of furniture. A tiny metal sink and toilet combo sit in one corner, while a small barred window allows a sliver of natural light to filter in. The sound of clanking bars echoes through the air as guards patrol the hallway outside.
What is... President Trump is 76 years old. He will die in federal prison.
Trump spends his days pacing the limited floor space. The once powerful man now finds himself in a place of confinement.
So you write about lessons learned in leadership, and you bring up some specific incidents I want to ask you about. You talk about meeting some world leaders, and one specific one, quote, "I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I've been a children's pastor after all." Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, you know, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went forward and have made some edits. So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days, and that those edits will be in place, and that people will have the updated version.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong-un. That's what you're saying.
You know, I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I think I've talked extensively in this book about my time serving in Congress, my time as governor, before governor, some of the travels that I've had. I'm not going to talk about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm just not going to do that. This anecdote shouldn't have been in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I made sure that that was adjusted. So the book is not released until Tuesday, and so we're doing all that we can to make sure that those changes are made, and I'm going to continue to focus on what this book is and the blueprint that it lays out for the American citizen, on all of the things in the background and stories of my life, but also what I think that needs to be identified in politics and what's broken today. I talk about how broken the money game is, how broken it is that we've got consultants that are getting rich off of elected officials, and then how fake some elected politicians are. Every single person in this country wants someone in elected office that's a human being, that doesn't say they're perfect. I take responsibility for that being in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I asked for it to be changed. So I'm glad that the release date is in a couple of days, and we're excited to talk to America about my new book, No Going Back.